Ave Maria Purissima. My mother made the sign of the cross for my 3 brothers who were away at war. Gabriel, she said to my father, it is not right that La Grande be alone in her old age. No, my father agreed. When I married you and went to the Llano to live with you and raise your family, I could not have survived without La Grande's help. Oh, those were hard years. Those were good years, my father countered. But my mother would not argue. There isn't a family she did not help, she continued. No road was too long for her to walk to its end, to snatch somebody from the jaws of death. And not even the blizzards of the Llano could keep her from the appointed place where a baby was to be delivered. Is there that? My father nodded. She tended me at the birth of my sons. And then I knew her eyes glanced briefly at my father. Gabriel, we cannot let her live her last days in loneliness. No, my father agreed. It is not the way of our people. It would be a great honor to provide a home for La Grande, my mother murmured. My mother called Ultima La Grande out of respect. It meant the woman was old and wise. I have already sent word with Campos that Ultima is to come and live with us, my father said with some satisfaction. He knew it would please my mother. I am grateful, my mother said tenderly. Perhaps we can repay a little of the kindness La Grande has given so many. And the children? My father asked. I knew why he expressed concern for me and my sisters. It was because Ultima was a curandera, a woman who knew the herbs and remedies of the ancients, a miracle worker who could heal the sick. And I had heard that Ultima could lift the curses laid by brujas, that she could exorcise the evil the witches planted in people to make them sick. And because a curandera had this power, she was misunderstood and often suspected of practicing witchcraft herself. I shuddered and my heart turned cold at the thought. The cuentos of the people were full of the tales of evil done by the brujas. She helped bring them into this world. She cannot be but good for the children, my mother answered. No, then, my father yawned. I will go for her in the morning. So, it was decided that Ultima should come and live with us. I knew that my father and mother did good by providing a home for Ultima. It was the custom to provide for the old and the sick. There was always room in the safety and warmth of La Familia for one more person, be that person stranger or friend. It was warm in the attic, and as I lay quietly listening to the sounds of my house falling asleep and repeating a Hail Mary over and over in my thoughts, I drifted into the time of dreams. Once I had told my mother about my dreams, and she said that they were visions from God, and she was happy, because her own dream was that I should grow up and become a priest. After that, I did not tell her about my dreams, and they remained in me forever and ever. In my dream, I flew over the rolling hills of the Llano. My soul wandered over the dark plain until it came to a cluster of adobe huts. I recognized the village of Las Pasturas, and my heart grew very happy. One mud hut had a lighted window, and the vision of my dream swept me towards it to be witness at the birth of a baby. I could not make out the face of the mother who rested from the pains of birth, but I could see the old woman in black who tended the just arrived, steaming baby. She nimbly tied a knot on the cord that had connected the baby to its mother's blood. Then quickly she bent, and with her teeth, she bit off the loose end. She wrapped the squirming baby and laid it at the mother's side. She returned to cleaning the bed. All linen was swept aside to be washed, but she carefully wrapped the useless cord in the afterbirth and laid the package at the feet of the Virgin on the small altar. I sensed that these things were yet to be delivered to someone. Now the people who had waited patiently in the dark were allowed to come in and speak to the mother and deliver their gifts to the baby. I recognized my mother's brothers, my uncles from El Puerto de los Lunas. They entered ceremoniously. A patient hope stirred their dark, brooding eyes. This one will be a Luna, the old man said. He will be a farmer and keep our customs and traditions. Perhaps God will bless our family and make the baby a priest. And to show their hope, they rubbed the dark earth of the river valley on the baby's forehead, and they surrounded the bed with the fruits of their harvest, so the small room smelled of fresh green chili and corn, ripe apples and peaches, pumpkins and green beans. Then, the silence was shattered with the thunder of hoofbeats. Vaqueros surrounded the small house with shouts and gunshots, and when they entered the room, they were laughing and singing and drinking. "Gabriel," they shouted, "you have a fine son! He will make a fine vaquero!" And they smashed the fruits and vegetables that surrounded the bed and replaced them with a saddle, horse blankets, bottles of whiskey, a new robe, bridges, chapas, and an old guitar. And they rubbed the stain of earth from the baby's forehead, because man was not to be tied to the earth, but free upon it. These were the people of my father, the vaqueros of the Llano. They were an exuberant, restless people wandering across the ocean of the plain. "We must return to our valley," the old man who led the farmers spoke. "We must take with us the blood that comes after the birth. We will bury it in our fields to renew their fertility and to assure that the baby will follow our ways." He nodded for the old woman to deliver the package at the altar. "No," the llaneros protested. "It will stay here. We will burn it and let the winds of the Llanos scatter the ashes." "It is blasphemy to scatter a man's blood on unholy ground," the farmers chanted. "The new son must fulfill his mother's dreams. He must come to El Puerto and rule over the Lunas of the valley. The blood of the Lunas is strong in him. He is Amares," the vaqueros shouted. "His forefathers were conquistadores, men as restless as the seas they sail and as free as the land they conquered. He is his father's blood." Curses and threats filled the air. Pistols were drawn, and the opposing sides made ready for battle. But the clash was stopped by the old woman who delivered the baby. "Cease!" she cried, and the men were quiet. "I poured this baby into the light of life, so I will bury the afterbirth and the cord that once linked him to eternity. Only I will know his destiny." The dream began to dissolve. When I opened my eyes, I heard my father cranking the truck outside. I wanted to go with him. I wanted to see Las Pasturas. I wanted to see Ultima. I dressed hurriedly, but I was too late. The truck was bouncing down the goat path that led to the bridge and the highway. I turned, as I always did, and looked down the slope of our hill to the green of the river. And I raised my eyes and saw the town of Guadalupe. Towering above the housetops and the trees of the town was the church tower. I made the sign of the cross on my lips. The only other building that rose above the housetops to compete with the church tower was the yellow top of the schoolhouse. This fall,